Hi, I'm Greg Lindsay, Director of Strategy for Commotion. I'm joined today by Mark Kaufman, Global Head of Electrification at Ford Motor. And we're going to have a quick chat here for Commotion Miami Live. Thank you for joining us, Mark.
Greg, thanks for having me on with you today.
No, it's our pleasure. So we're going to talk a bit about the Mach-E. And the first question I have to ask is, and the thing I've been thinking about ever since it was announced, is the fact that, the Mach-E, an electric SUV, what would Carroll Shelby think of the Mustang that he helped create? And yet customers love it. They, ignored completely the fact that the heritage of the Mustang should be a muscle-ish car or whatever. And they've completely embraced this vision for Ford. And it raises the question with that and the forthcoming F-150, what is the meaning of electric to Ford customers? Like, how do you sell the customers who are used to having that kind of performance, coming in the form of an internal combustion engine, the revs, the smell? How does it translate into electric? What kind of meanings and culture have they grafted onto it?
So, Greg, you're hitting on a key point. When our group formed about 3 years ago to accelerate Ford's EV strategy, we had a lot of options available to us, and our conclusion came back into is we really want to tap into our iconic brand. And for our team, we dubbed ourselves Team Edison internally. What our team's mission was all about is it goes beyond just batteries and motors. It's how do we make these iconic products that we have in our portfolio today even better with electrification? So what better way to lead than with the Mustang? So over 55 years of heritage on that, and probably one of the more controversial moves. Because you think about that, you can imagine there's more than one person who said, let me get this right. Ford's taking the Mustang, an American muscle car V8 that grumbles and growls, and turning it into an SUV that's fully battery electric. And I tell you what, this is how the worlds come together, is you think about what Mustang stands for: fast, fun, freedom. Mm-hmm. And one of the challenges we always had with the coupe is that you couldn't ever take 4 adults with you, right? That second row package has some limitations on it, or even some of the younger customers who absolutely love Mustang, but as they start getting into a family stage, it doesn't work for them. And we were able to take, and this is how electrification can be empowering, we're able to take the iconic great design of the Mustang, which there were some trade-offs on that: long hood, really sleek, aggressive haunches on the back of the car, and coupled though with a battery. What that battery does for us, besides giving us that just sheer exhilaration of instant torque for a performance EV SUV with 612 foot-pounds of torque, mid 3 seconds, 0 to 60, right? Sheer acceleration, but the battery is so low on the vehicle that our center of gravity in this vehicle is just a little bit higher than what it is on the coupe. So you're getting this SUV body style and the space that comes with it, whether it's for passengers or whether it's for your gear in the back, but you're getting absolutely that great exhilarating dynamic performance while you're driving the car. And we wouldn't have been able to do that any other way if we didn't have, if it wasn't a battery electric vehicle. So that first of all, we're leading with, I would say, our most iconic brand around the world. And that really just goes to show that Ford is really serious about electrification and pivoting into this technology, but doing it in a way that it actually brings more to our customers.
Interesting. Well, the Mach-E, of course, like other electric vehicles, will have over-the-air updates. You're going to be able to add features to it over time. We'll talk about some of those when it comes to driver assistance in a bit. But first, I want to talk about that it's going to have increasing capabilities to calculate its range. And the bane of electric vehicles always in talking to consumers is those fears about range anxiety. And you've addressed those in some ways. With some of the devices you're selling, your partnership with Electrify America, which just completed its network. I was hoping you could talk a bit about that. How are you assuaging consumers with range anxiety, and when can we expect that to go away? Like, when is the network going to be reasonably mature of this? And that fear is going to fade into the background.
Greg, we started when our team embarked on our EV strategy. We really looked at what we would call the whole customer journey, meaning when you're in those early shopping stages, what do customers care about? And you hit on some key points. For those that have not owned either a plug-in hybrid or an EV, there is concern about, well, how does this work? Where's my charging network? We often talk about chargers being hidden in plain sight. They just don't have the big pylon sitting off the highway to let people know to get off here. So when we started looking at what are those pain points for customers, we started literally almost 3 years ago now on how do we address those. And some of the things that we're launching with the Mustang, and Yuri gave me a nice segue into some of them. First is the charging network. And our approach for the charging network, and we had some team members who owned competitive electric vehicles. So when our team formed, we actually actively reached out to some people who weren't part of Ford Motor Company, give us a fresh set of eyes, and also some people that owned EVs because they were just passionate about electric vehicles. And some of the things they shared with us, one of the individuals I'm thinking of literally said, I have to carry around 5 charging cards with me, and they all have different requirements of account balances, and I have to find the right card. And we said, well, wouldn't it be great if we could actually tap into this great access of available public charging, but made it super easy for our customers, so they would only have to carry around their Ford Pass app on their phone. And no matter which of the vehicles that were, or the charging stations that were in our network for our Ford Pass charging network, they don't have to carry all the cards. They literally can just pull up and have confidence that if it's a station in the network, we're going to make it as easy as possible for them to get charging. And that strategy helped us in working with these different charging companies. We've literally got 13,500 charging stations as part of our network. So we believe that when the Mustang Mach-E launches and gets into customers' hands later this year, at the end of the year, that we will have the largest publicly available charging network with those 13,500 charge stations available to the customer. And then also you mentioned range. Range we know is super important to customers. And there's varying levels of range estimators on competitive products today, but we really wanted to deliver something that we think could be class leading with our intelligent range forecaster. And when customers put in their destination, it takes into account things like elevation, temperature, it's all those small things. Imagine if you're in Colorado and you're going up Rocky Mountains on one side and then down on the other side. If your range calculator isn't taking into account elevation changes, you can imagine you use a little bit more energy going up the side of a mountain than on the downside. So depending on where your end destination is, seeing the customers today, if they don't have a good range tool, are just going to see their range rapidly moving around on a trip. And that just gives them some concern of, do I really have enough to get there? And the third part of that is also integrating to say, well, as I'm on a trip, not only having accurate range, but making it very easy for customers to know where those charging stations are located. I mentioned at this point, you just don't see those big pylons and know that every exit that you get off. And sometimes, and we even did some early hunts to say, can we find even when we knew there was a destination, can we actually find it? And it almost became a bit of a scavenger hunt, right? To say, it says it's right here, but I don't actually see it. Where is the charger? So we wanted to make it super easy in our early learnings to say, how do we make it super easy with pictures and visual identification to know not only when you're getting off, what to look for, how to locate it, but also the last thing you want is if you're calling it a little bit close on range for the next time you're going to take a break, also, are the charging stations available? Are you able to, is there a station that's actually open for you to be able to charge? So a lot of time spent on how do we actually make the customer experience on this as easy and hassle-free as possible. And our hope is that as customers drive the product, they're going to become advocates for it.
Yeah, well, looking ahead from that, I mean, as you build out that charging network and build out your own infrastructure, many of your automotive competitors have released bits and pieces of visions about imagining a sort of future like electromobility stack, right? Like, the combination of the home charging and clean renewables on the roof. Obviously, Ford has the smart mobility vision that's thinking about this at a broader city level. And yeah, I mean, as the head of electrification, what's Ford's sort of emerging vision about thinking about what the infrastructure of the future looks like, where the notion of, can I have, partnerships through Ford to have a single package where I can install the solar panels, install a battery in my garage, and have that feed in and out of my, my Mach-E or my F-150 when that comes out in a few years, and thinking through like what the sort of total offering of like clean mobility looks like.
No, Greg, you hit it. And depending on where you're at within the U.S., what we know today, 85 to 90% of consumers are charging out of their residence. So we wanted, again, you're going to keep hearing the words easy and hassle-free quite a bit from me, because that was really our kind of our vision for, we've got to make this for those that don't own and they're concerned. We just want to make this so simple that we take away those anxieties. So let's talk charging at home first. We did partner with Amazon Services. We have, first of all, we put a really good, capable charger in the vehicle that is able to charge at a good rate. So you're getting 21 miles per hour of charge off of a 220, 240 circuit in your residence, and that comes with the vehicle, which we're encouraging customers to get ready for it. It does charge off of 110 as well. But you would imagine the 110 charging for vehicles that get 300 miles of range charges much slower at about 3 miles an hour. But the charger that comes with the vehicle, very capable. You can also travel with it. That does give you about 21 miles for every hour that is plugged in. But then we do have a smart wall charger that's available. And that, again, through Amazon Services, if your vehicle is not currently equipped, again, 4 simple questions gives you a very immediate estimate for what that charge is going to be, depending on the age of your home, how far essentially that charging station is going to be relative to where your wall box is installed. But with 4 simple questions, click of the button, Amazon Services will come out once we're through our COVID crisis and actually get your home wired up and ready to go. And as you would imagine, when we start talking about exportable power, so we just announced our brand new F-150, obviously our big flagship for our truck business. And as we can start getting into exportable power, no announcements today, but one would imagine the head of electrification is probably interested in making sure that we're also similar to what we did for our Mustang Mach-E launch, that we're going to have some capability as well to make it as easy when we start talking about exportable power on the vehicle and what we might be able to do with that and working with our customers and a good partner.
Yeah. Well, speaking of future updates to the vehicle, I mentioned this earlier, and obviously one of the ones that's being hotly anticipated is the launch of Ford's own sort of advanced driver assist system, the CoPilot 360. And of course, there is a lot of ink that has been written about the appropriate levels of safety when it comes to that, about driver attentiveness and hands on the wheel and tracking eye movements. The competition sometimes doesn't take the complete measures, but the CoPilot 360, my understanding is going to use 3 different cameras. It's going to be sort of the maximum safety. And I'm curious your approach to this. Obviously, Ford and its partner at Argo AI have really sort of staked out this ultra safe approach to it. And I was hoping you could talk a bit about those features and why sort of you hope that CoPilot 360 will be sort of the leading system compared to the competition.
Yeah, so first of all, Ford, having been around for more than a century, takes trust and our consumer safety very seriously. And we had a very, I would say, thoughtful approach on how do we do that. So one of the things that is unique on the Mustang Mach-E is we did put in a system to measure essentially where the drivers of the Mustang Mach-E are looking. So that sits very nicely. In fact, at some point, most customers won't even pick up that it's there, but it's nestled right on the top of the steering column. So essentially, if you think about the top of the steering wheel, it comes in right on top of that steering column panel, and it is monitoring the eyes, because what we want to do is we want to make sure that the customers are paying attention. There's clearly already lots of evidence that when customers aren't doing that, there's still some challenges, and we want to make sure the customers are paying attention to the road. When we started talking about when we launched Sync a number of years ago for our infotainment capability, we always talked about eyes on the road, hands on the wheels, the voice capability. And now we're taking that to the next level with our CoPilot technology, where we are monitoring the eyes because we want to make sure that our drivers are paying attention to the road ahead of them. But at the same time, the system on the roads today, it's about 100,000 miles of roads in North America where the customers can truly drive hands-free. And as long as they're paying attention to the road, and you can imagine the system gives you several nods of what to do when you're starting to be distracted or not paying attention forward. Obviously, a quick look away isn't going to trigger anything, but if it continues to sense that you're not looking at the road, you're going to get more. But we still really think that provides for a much more relaxing drive experience with that hands-free driving. And that's been important for us. And also now, and this is combining both driver assist technology along with over-the-air capability. Our vehicles are launching with the camera hardwares and other technology, and then we're actually delivering the big update for even more capability for the driver assist functionality with CoPilot through over-the-air. And that's also been a big push for us on our new Mustang Mach-E launch, and also our new F-Series truck is capable to receive over-the-air updates. And that's the case where our customers' cars now can keep getting better, right? So that's the new age of software and loading software through over-the-air updates, where through the ownership process now, your vehicle is getting better with more capability.
Great. I only wish Carol Shelby was here to see this, to see exactly how the Mustang has evolved over time. Thank you so much for joining us, Mark. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Greg.
Great. Thank you so much, Mark. Yeah.
Enjoy your time off. So have a good camping trip. Hopefully the weather cooperates with you. It's always important when camping that you get some good weather.
Only overnight rain in the forecast for Saturday, so hopefully it'll turn out. Pray for us. Well, great. Thank you so much, Mark. Have a great weekend and really appreciate it.
Yep. Nice to meet you.
Thank you, Greg. Thanks, Mark.
Thank you. Thank you, buddy. Bye, gents.